Hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. You are listening to the Brittney Bundles podcast, where we empower people through entrepreneurship. And today I want to give you all a disclosure. Before we get started, I am currently in a hotel room. I have my children with me. They're doing homeschool work, so you may hear some noise in the background. Hopefully it's not too much, but you may hear some noise because we are in a hotel. We're in the process of selling our home and relocating, moving to a different state. So bear with me today, but I still want to get this message out because I feel that it's really important to talk about. So often people come up to me and they ask me, well, how are you able to work on the go? How are you able to get out of your 9-to-5 and do what it is you love doing? And that's why my favorite saying that I've talked about on YouTube, on my Brittney Bundles channel, as well as on this podcast platform, my favorite sayings, or one of my favorite sayings, is at first they ask why and later they ask how, because it's been so true in my life. A lot of people see the end result, or not necessarily even the end result, but they see the results and they really don't know the backstory. And that's what intrigues them. Well, how did she get to where she's at currently? How did that happen? Especially when you have started in similar places and you're now in a different place. It may seem that you have outgrown certain places, outgrown certain friendships, outgrown certain behaviors and activities. And like I said, people want to know the how. Well, how did that happen? And so we're going to be talking about today why taking risks are important. So many people want the reward, but are afraid of the risk. And I say this time and time again, it is okay to be afraid. Sometimes I'm very fearful as well. I'm not going to say that I am fearless in everything that I do. It's something that I'm working towards. I definitely want to get to a place where I'm not fearful or scared of anything. I want to be able to fully trust God and fully be able to have faith in His word. And so I don't want to be afraid of anything, but I still do struggle with that. There are times that I am still fearful, still afraid. But I do want to talk about why taking risks are important. It's like, in order to get the reward, there are some risks that have to be taken in order for that to happen. And so we're going to be talking about that today. So if you are interested in this episode where we're going over why taking risks are important, be sure to share the episode, favorite the episode. You can share the episode many ways. We've gone over some ways that you can share. You can share via social media. You can share via text message. You also can share via email. And you can share by turning up the podcast in your car when you're riding with a friend, a family member, or a loved one. So we're going to go ahead and get started in just a minute. I do want to welcome you all back to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. And like I said, we'll get started in just a moment. All right. So welcome back again to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. We are talking about why taking risks are important. And I want to talk about this because, like I said, a lot of people want to know the how. And the how has a lot to do with risk. When I was not willing to risk anything or try anything new, I found that my life was very stagnant. Yes, it seemed more safe, but it was stagnant. And the reason that I say more safe is because I felt more safe doing things that I was used to. I felt more safe doing things that I had typically done, doing things that were familiar with me, such as going to certain 9-to-5 jobs, sticking in the same field of work, being in certain relationships that were not really fulfilling or happy, but it was familiar. So I found a sense of comfort in just familiarity. So there's a lot of comfort in doing what it is you're used to. There's a lot of comfort in staying inside of your safe zone in a box, but there's not much growth there. There's not much growth. There's only so far you can grow. And there are a lot of people that have told me time and time again in my life, hey, don't do this, do that, don't do that. That's too big of a risk. And I ultimately had to make the decision for myself, for my life, and I had to figure out what it is I wanted to do. Now, we're going to talk about the first point, which is, if you never try, you never know. There are so many people today living with regrets, not knowing what their life could have been or how their life could have turned out if they would have actually went for what it is they really wanted to go for. One thing that I've realized is that when you do something for someone else's gratitude or someone else's excitement or someone else's wants or needs, it's not as fulfilling as if you would have done it for yourself. And sometimes when we talk about doing things for ourselves, we're categorized as being selfish. We're categorized as being wrong. But I'm here to remind all of you that it's not wrong to live your life. It's not wrong to decide what it is you want for yourself. Even God gives us free will to decide what it is we want to do. And so eventually you're going to have to make the choice of, am I going to live for everyone else, or am I going to live for what it is God put inside of me? And so if you never try, you never know. If I never tried to start a business, I would never truly know how freeing it is to be able to pick up and go when I want to. I would never be able to experience receiving mobile money like I do now. And I've talked about mobile money on my YouTube channel at Brittney Bundles, and also on this platform, being able to get paid no matter what I'm doing, being able to get paid while I'm homeschooling my children, being able to get paid while I'm at the park with my children, being able to get paid while I'm visiting family members. Being able to do what it is I love and still get paid. Recently, I had an interview with a Shopify affiliate, and they wanted to get my opinions and my insight on using Shopify. And I was so honored to be able to just share my experience using Shopify and also be compensated for that. And there was a time that I've dreamt. I used to dream about doing what it is I do now. I used to dream about working with different people, and I used to dream about being able to be financially stable to the point that I could move when I wanted to move and where I wanted to move. I used to dream about being able to own and operate a business and be fulfilled in it. And the fact that it's my reality, it's something that I want to continue sharing with everyone, because I want you all to know that it's possible. I'm not an exception to the rule. I'm not someone that was grown up or raised, with a silver spoon in my mouth. I'm not someone that's more educated than everyone out there. I didn't finish college, and I'm not saying that to, promote you starting or finishing college or you not. I'm just sharing my journey. I had a lot of naysayers and a lot of doubt that was placed upon my life from a lot of people. And I'm sure some of the doubt and some of the naysaying was out of love. It was out of fear. It was out of concern. But I'm just saying that I was not always in this position where I felt as confident and comfortable to live my life and to go after what it is I wanted to do. But I do know that if you don't try, you don't know. So I'm glad that I've tried to open a business. I'm glad that I tried to open a salon, and not even tried, but did it. I'm glad that I started my YouTube channel. I'm glad that I wrote and published my first ebook. I'm glad that I have a podcast. I'm glad that I work with many entrepreneurs and help them get their businesses up and going, and also maintain and grow their business. So I'm happy that I tried. And in order for me to try, I had to get outside of what was comfortable for me. I had to take a chance. I had to take a risk. And so I do want to stress the fact that taking risks are necessary if you do want to get to the next level. Now, if you're okay floating by and just letting your days pass by, and if you're content with what it is you're currently doing, and you don't want to grow anymore, and you don't want anything else, then okay. Don't take any risks. Just live life every day without risking anything. But this message here is for those that want to grow, for those that actually want to reach and obtain their dreams. It's different. It's a different feeling to actually live life happily, to live life being fulfilled, to live life acting out your God-given gifts and your purpose and living in your passion, versus just waking up and doing what it is you feel like is just normal and routine just because it's something that you're used to doing. Now, the second point that I want to touch on is progression. So progression. So like I said in the beginning of the podcast, change is scary. Change definitely can be scary. Progression is something that is needed for growth. In order to grow, we have to progress. Without progressing forward, there's no growth. Staying in the same place yields your progression. So it's very simple now to me as to what I need to do. I need to constantly push myself and challenge myself past my fears, past what's comfortable to me, past what is normal, quote unquote, to me. And I have to go for what it is that's not so normal, what it is that may look a little scary, what it is that is going to get me closer to how I want to live. So progression. I constantly ask myself this, or occasionally, I ask myself this. I don't want to say it's pretty frequent. I ask myself, well, Brittney, what do you want to do next? And how are you planning on getting there? I have these conversations with myself Sometimes it's just, I'm just thinking. Other times I talk out loud because I really want to understand where I am looking to go. And once I get there, I want to know what the next plan is. I never want to get someplace and just stop. I always want to keep the progression going. I always want to continue to grow and move forward. And so that's something that doesn't happen by mistake. That's something that happens intentionally by figuring out what my next move is going to be. There are so many people that have got to a place that they love, that they like, and they've just stopped with the progression. Progression doesn't mean that you have to change up everything all the time. Progression doesn't mean that you can't have anything that's a constant in your life. But it does mean that you're strategically planning and moving towards the next step and the next vision in your life. Every day that we're on this earth, we have another opportunity to fulfill God's plan for our lives, to enrich others' lives, and to go after what it is we want to go after. Like I said before in other podcast episodes, it's not wrong to want to go after what it is you love doing. God created all of us unique for a reason. God put certain thoughts in your mind for a reason. God put certain visions in your heart for a reason. Not so that it can align with what everyone else is saying or what everyone else thinks. There are going to be some things that people just won't understand. Sometimes you do have to stand alone if you are looking at leading your life and leading your family into a different area, into a different level of living. Sometimes you'll have to stand alone. A lot of leaders have stood alone. A lot of entrepreneurs have stood alone. A lot of heroes have stood alone. So it's not for the weak. It's not for the weak at all. But if you are committed to growing, and if you are committed to starting what it is and finishing what it is you came to start and finish, and continue to move forward after that, there has to be some progression, and you have to be willing to stand alone sometimes. You have to be willing to be the only one that understands where you want to go. You have to be able and willing to be the only one that's going to respect and get your vision. Remember, at first they asked why and later they asked how. Now, the next point that I wanted to touch on is calculated risk. So although I'm saying take risk, I'm not saying go out here and risk your last dime or risk your home or risk your means of transportation. But I am saying take calculated risk. So we're going to be doing another episode very soon talking about calculated risk in death. Because there's a such thing as just taking risk, and there's something else that is called taking calculated risk. I am an advocate for calculated risk, meaning that you have a backup plan, and not just a backup plan, but you're calculating and you're weighing every decision to make sure that it's towards your benefit, that it's going to work in your favor. And like I said, if it doesn't, you have backup plans so that you still can land on your feet. There are so many people that have taken risks, but didn't calculate those risks first. They've jumped out there, but didn't think it through. And there are other people that think it through to the point that they have thought about everything, every single what if this happens, and it scares them. And so they end up staying stagnant. They don't want to move because they're afraid of, okay, well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And okay, I have a backup plan, but what if this? So what I would say is, create as many backup plans as you need to keep yourself comfortable and stable and afloat, but don't allow your overthinking or underthinking to stop you. We still need to progress, but we need to progress while taking calculated risk. So weighing it up on a scale. Does it make sense for me to do this? What are the benefits? What are the consequences? Good and bad. What is the time frame that I'm putting on myself? What are my expectations? And I don't even like to say, are my expectations realistic? Because if you would have asked me a couple years ago, would it be realistic for me to be able to raise 3 children off of income from doing what it is I love doing and not having to clock in? I probably would have said, no, you're dreaming. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, I read about it. Yeah, I watched a couple videos where people talked about it. But no, I never thought it would be my reality. So sometimes we have to think outside of what we're used to, think outside of everything that we've saw, and we have to be willing to lead. And for me, I have to lead my family. I have to show them something different. I have to be able to stand alone at times. I have to be able to weigh my risk up and to decide what the next step is. And I also have to be willing to progress. and not get too comfortable. That's another issue that a lot of us have. When something starts to go well or right, we get too comfortable and we don't look forward or look towards anything else. We're just content and we're here. There's a such thing as being grateful and not being content. I'm grateful for everything that I have, but no, I'm not content with where I'm at. And when I say that, some people turn their head up. Well, you should be, but you can't tell someone what they should be. You can't tell someone what the cap on their happiness should be. You can't tell anyone where the cap on their income should be. You can't tell anyone when they should stop striving for success based on where your success meter is at, because we're all different. So go out and take the calculated risk. Weigh the risk up. Make sure that it makes sense, but don't overthink it. And when you do start to overthinking it, the way that I combat that is I create backup plans. Okay, Brittney, you're right. I'm glad you thought about it. I'm glad you thought about this happening. So if this happens, then this is what I plan on doing. Okay, if this doesn't work, then this is what I'm going to do. And that's how you keep yourself afloat, by taking calculated risk. Now, the next point that I wanted to touch on is trust and faith. There are so many people that constantly talk about God. They constantly talk about trusting God. But the question that I have to ask myself too is, do you truly trust God? Do we truly have faith in God? Or is it something that we're just used to saying? Is it something that's just routine for us to talk about? Because if we truly trust God, then there shouldn't be so much back and forth. There shouldn't be so much, nah, I'm not going to do it because I'm nervous about this or I'm scared about this. Like I said, I'm still working through my fears and being able to tackle different tasks without being afraid. That's something that I'm working on. However, I am also working on my faith and my trust in the Lord. Because I can't say one day that I trust God, but then be afraid. I mean, I guess you could, but how does that make sense? But then be afraid to want to move forward and do what it is God put in my heart. It's either like you trust Him or you don't. And so a lot of times different business opportunities and different business ideas are either taken by someone else or they just never get fulfilled by us because we are so afraid of trusting what it is God put inside of us. And then when you're not afraid of trusting what God put inside of you, you're looked at sometimes by other people as being crazy, as being irrational, as going too far. But I'm here to tell you that my focus isn't on how other people are perceiving me necessarily. But my focus is making sure that I'm being authentic in everything that I do. And that has attracted certain people to me that needed to be in my life at certain times. We'll take the Shopify interview for an example. I didn't reach out and sign up to be a part of any survey or interview. I was contacted. And when I was contacted, one of the things that one of the interviewers said was, we looked at your store, we looked at your sales and your analytics, and we looked at the time frame that you've been on Shopify. And one thing that we love, even talking to you, is how authentic your story is and how authentic you are. And I wasn't going into the interview saying, okay, Brittney, just be authentic. But I went in just being open and honest. I went in talking about the calculated risks that I took. I went in wanting to share my journey. And so, like I said, everything that's happening in my life are things that I wanted to happen, that I spoke, that I thought about, that I dreamt about. But in reality, I still had so many doubts as to if this was going to happen and how this was going to happen. And so knowing that everything has come together, even my failures, quote unquote, because you know how I feel about the word failure, but everything has come together. I don't have any anger. I don't have any sadness. I truly feel like everything happened for a reason. Everything happened for a reason. And sometimes I think about, wow, how did that happen? And then I remember that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. So everything is working out. And so I'm now trusting God even more than I did before. I'm having faith in His words even more than I did before, because I know regardless of if people around me are fearful or if people around me are wanting me to stop or not start, I know what God wants for me. And that trumps everything. I know what God has told me, and that trumps everything. I know what God has shown me. And sometimes we have to be willing to be used by God. We have to be willing to step outside of what we think is right, what we think is normal, what we have been told to do, and do what it is God told us to do. And in order to do that, we have to get a little bit more fine-tuned. I know for me, as to how to know when God's speaking to you, how to know if it's God, or how to know if it's your fear. So one thing that I stopped doing too is I stopped sharing every single move and every single plan with everyone. Now, I never really did that on social media, but I did do that in my personal life. Every time I would think about doing something, I would get on the phone. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Hey, I started this. Hey, I'm doing this. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, except it does open up the room for a lot of distraction. And it does open up the field as well for a lot of discouragement. And some people can take the distractions, the discouragement, and still push forward. But some people, it really, really gets into their mind, into their heart, into their spirit, and it stunts their growth. And it causes them not to want to take any risk because they're fearful about it. So I'm here to remind everyone again to have faith and trust. I mean, if you don't have anything else, that's what we have. We have faith. My business may not be going how I want it to go, but I have faith in God that everything will work out in my favor. My business plan may have not unfolded the way that I intended it to unfold, but I still trust God through it all. So faith and trust. Now, the last point that I want to touch on is ambition and being a go-getter. There are some entrepreneurs that lack ambition. I do a lot of consultations, and people ask occasionally, depending on who I'm working with, why isn't anything happening? Why am I just staying stagnant? And once we go through what they've done and what they're looking to do, and seeing the stop and the halt throughout their business journey, they've started 1 year and then they took a 6-month break. They were consistent for another 2 months and then they stopped again for another month. They were consistent for a week and then took another 5-month break. Consistency is missing, is lacking, and so is ambition. I don't know about any of you, but I know from my testimony, my journey, nothing just came and fell in my lap. Not one thing. Everything that I have and everything that I've worked for, I had to go out and get. I had to do something. I had to create the legwork behind my faith in God. And I had to put the works in. I wasn't able just to sit down in my room and things just pop into me. I had to be able to get out and go get what it is I wanted. Every day when I look at my children, every day when I look at myself, every day when I look at my family, when I speak with different clients and customers, that's my motivation to continue to get out and get it. Not just for myself, not just because I want more money, not because I just want more clients, but because I want to be able to show better than I can tell that this is possible. I grew up in an area where there was a lot of not good happening. Let's just put it like that. And a lot of people that we thought made it were people that were doing illegal activities, and would come through the city in a nice car and money and nice clothes and shoes. And, those were some things that people looked up to. And of course, there were other people in the neighborhood and in the city. But in the area that I grew up in as a child, not knowing, what else is out in the world and doing my research, but just seeing what I saw, a lot of children aspired to be something that didn't really have a promising future, that was going to get them wrapped back up in the whole trap that was created and designed for our community, for our people. And so seeing here that as a young woman, you are more valued, you have more to offer than what's between your legs, you have more to offer than a pretty face. It's a message that I want to continue to get out because it's a message that's not given out enough. You can never give this message out enough, in my opinion. There are so many people that have so many visions and talents that are in prison right now that are not able to fully bring their vision and their passions and the gifts that God put inside of them to reality. And so I want to share with as many people as I can the possibilities that, yeah, you can choose whatever you want in life. You can go down whatever path you want to go down. You can be whatever you want to be. Do whatever you want to do. But I want to show you that this is an option. And when I say this, creating a business, sticking to it, following your dreams, following your passion, and really being able to set an example and be an inspiration. And not just an inspiration, but being able to grow your relationship stronger with God based on the love that He continues to show through your life. When I grew up, I would hear all the time, this is why you should love God, and this is why God is good. But when you're older and you experience God for yourself, there's nothing like it. I can't take the credit for everything that has happened in my life. But I can take the credit for making the decision to trust God. I can take the credit for making the decision to get started with what it is that was in my heart. I can take the credit for using the gifts and the skills that God put inside of me. And I want all of you to be able to take that credit. I want all of you to be able to do what it is that's fulfilling to you. I want all of you to be able to take risk, calculated risk with reward. And even if the risk that you're taking does not land you where you anticipated or where you wanted it to land you, still being able to place your feet on solid ground. It's all about the foundation. It's all about how you position yourself and your business. It's all about the backup plans and the thoughts that it goes into how you're going to run and maintain and grow this business. It's not just about making money and spending it as soon as you get it. It's not just about making money and even saving everything that you get. But in order to be successful, in my opinion, for my definition, and stable, we have to learn how to manage our money. We have to learn how to have multiple streams of income so that we continue to have the money coming in. We have to learn how to communicate better, more efficient every day so that we can talk to many people and share the experience and share our journeys and our testimonies. We have to be willing to stand alone at times, stand for what's right, stand for what's in our heart. We have to be willing to get outside of our comfort zone, step outside of the box. And we have to be willing to take a chance, to take a risk, to have faith, and to trust God that no matter what, we're going to be okay. I have started living my life outside of fear. This year, I told myself that I was going to tackle all of my fears, and I have done that. Well, I have one more to do, which is flying. But all of my other personal fears, I have done, like the big personal fears that, we're all scared of, or I don't want to say everyone, but for me, I had a couple that I was scared of. I've tackled them. And I'm so proud of myself. And I feel so free. And what was waiting on the other side was not what I thought. I thought leaving some relationships would leave me, worse off than when I started. I thought that certain life experiences would break me. I thought that certain choices would end my business. Well, this may not work. And if this doesn't work, then... But I had backup plans. I made calculated risk. I moved strategically. And I'm in a place now that I am happy to be in. Now, not every day is going to be happy. I understand that. Not every day is going to go as I want it to go. But I'm grateful through it all because I know where I started. I know what I anticipated for my life. And I know what God has shown me today. And so I want to continue to share my journey, my testimony, and inspiration with others. I'm not the only one that has a story similar to this. I'm not the only one that's able to live out her dreams and her aspirations and her vision and use God's tools and gifts daily. I'm not the only one. There's many out there. But I'm here to let you know because a lot of you have been following me in my journey since I first got on YouTube at Brittney Bundles. You can check out some of my older videos before the salon was even up and running. And there are people in my comments saying, you know what? In some of my videos, they were saying, you know what? She should have had this plan, and she may still be in business to this day. But they haven't seen the whole journey. They don't know that I'm still in business. They don't know that I'm making more money that I made at the salon today. They don't know that I'm able to even, like I said, move freely with the money that I'm making from my income, from my business income. They don't know how many lives I'm able to touch. They don't know the relationship that I've grown with God. They don't know all of the people that God has placed in my life on this business journey. So it's a lot of stuff that people don't know. There's a lot of people that will want to discourage you because number one, they're scared. Or maybe number two, they're jealous. They see something in you that they don't see in themselves. Or number three, they just don't believe you can do it. But either way, that's not your concern. Your concern is making sure that the one life that you have to live, you live it, and you live it with no regrets, and you take calculated risks to get you to where you need and want to be. So I really hope that this podcast touched someone out there. Bottom line is, take this calculated risk or be content with where you're at. Be content with where you're at. Those are the two choices. Those that want to see progression, those that see growth, or those that try something different. Those that don't try, those that won't try, those that are too afraid to move forward, even in fear, are oftentimes the ones that are stagnant in life. And so do what it is that's in your heart. Pray about it. Think about it. Create different plans and backup plans. Strategize, save, build your foundation, and move forward. Like always, I don't want the conversation to end. If you do want to be a guest on the Brittney Bundles podcast, please reach out to me. My email address is btalks@yahoo.com. That is BTALKS@yahoo.com. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on YouTube at Brittney Bundles. That is Brittney, Brittney, Bundles, Bundles. I'm on Twitter, Brittney Bundles, Instagram, Brittney_Bundles, and Facebook, Brittney Bundles. Until next time, I'll talk to you all in the next podcast episode.